Burnout is insanely common nowadays. And the way I see it is it's almost by design. Many of us live in societies across the world that make burnout the ultimate destination. We are isolated more than ever from one another. It is harder to build meaningful relationships. We're disconnected from nature. Many of us are finding ourselves in a spiritual battle, trying to just hang on to faith, where the Prophet ﷺ said there would come a time where holding on to your religion was like holding on to hot coal. We are in societies that prize productivity, that focus so much on what we can do for other people, and doesn't prize turning inward and taking time to be by yourself and do the work on yourself. Self-improvement is even capitalistic in the way that it is demonstrated and taught about, right? How much money can you have? How much muscle can you put on? Not how much security can you provide or how strong and healthy you can get. With that being said, we can talk all day about the problems, but let's talk about some solutions and ways to overcome burnout if you are experiencing it. Before I get into that, my name is Hannah. If you're new here, I am a PA. I practice medicine, and I'm also a trauma coach and healing coach for Muslim women. So I help Muslim women heal from trauma and create a new life ahead of them. If this is something that you're interested in, then you can always go to the links in my description to learn more about how you can work with me and the work that I do. This is going to be an unfiltered, unedited video throughout. It's probably going to be a longer video, but stick to the end because I really think that a lot of the things we talk about can help you. And most of us are not going to learn this elsewhere. So let's start off. If you see me looking to the side, it's just because I'm looking at my notes. And let's talk about burnout. First of all, what's burnout? You might have heard this, but what is burnout? So burnout is essentially a state of emotional, mental, physical, and additionally, in my opinion, spiritual exhaustion caused by excessive or prolonged stress, right? So we are going, and eventually we hit a wall. And when it happens, some things that you might feel is you might feel a sense of overwhelm. You might feel really insecure, emotionally drained, physically tired and fatigued. You might have difficulty sleeping. You might feel a sense of purposelessness, almost a sense of like impending doom. This is where people tend to find themselves having their quarter life crisis or their midlife crisis because you've been going up until this point and now you're forced to face with the fact that you can't keep going at the same rate and at the same level of energy that you used to be able to. With that being said, burnout is a horrible experience. I remember when I was feeling burned out, and I was honestly so shocked at how much can be taken from you in such a short period of time. Burnout doesn't happen in a single day. It's little by little and then all at once, right? It's you start noticing some signs that something is wrong, and then you don't pay attention to it as much. And eventually you just hit this wall where you wonder, how did I get to the peak of the burnout mountain without even realizing it? And so talking about solutions, the first one that I want to mention is taking a pause. Before burnout, there is a space of time where, again, the impending pinnacle of burnout is on its way, but we can identify it. And if we can catch burnout before it fully happens, in the pre-burnout stage, some might call it, we can do a lot. But most of us don't have this one necessary skill to be able to do that. And what is that skill? It's the ability to pause and really tune in to our mind-body connection. Let me tell you a concept or teach you a concept that is going to be revolutionary, truly, if you keep it in mind. And it's called the window of tolerance. The window of tolerance, think of it like a little window, think of it like a little square, is essentially the space where our nervous system is best equipped to deal with the stress of everyday life. It is a place where it just gives, our nervous system gives just enough arousal in the sense of us being able to focus and do what we need to do without it being overwhelming, without it causing raging anxiety or sending us into a depressive episode. And we want to stay in that window of tolerance. Burnout is a clear sign that you went out of that window of tolerance. And so to prevent burnout, which is the best cure, prevention is the best cure, is being able to tell when that window of tolerance is being stepped out of. Now, here's the thing. What about if you're already burnt out? Well, in that case, the theory still applies. You're out of your window of tolerance, And your window of tolerance when you get back into it is probably going to be smaller, meaning because you're burnt out, you're not going to be able to handle as much. It is really important that you start noticing and building that mind-body connection to tell when you are out of your window of tolerance. When you are informed about how your nervous system reacts, then you're much more apt and capable of taking steps to be able to reverse the burnout, or to at least not face the full consequences of it. So that's number one. Number two is, if you've already hit burnout, you understand and you know that you can't continue on like this. Now, it is very easy in situations of burnout to feel trapped. We call this learned helplessness. It's a conditioning that we do to ourselves where we convince ourselves through repeated situations that we're put in that there's no way out. But there are very few situations in life where you're truly, truly trapped. And with that being said, it's important to push back on that learned helplessness and think about how can you offload some of that stress? How can you make it so you bring yourself back into your window of tolerance and you help reduce the level of burden on yourself so you're not feeling the burnout as intensely? How can you offload duties to someone else? What can this look like? Let's give an example. Let's say you're a mother and you are charged with taking care of your kids day and night and it's feeling exhausting. It's time for you to start thinking about, okay, if I'm burned out like this, I'm not going to be able to take care of my children to the optimal level. Is there someone who can support me? Are there duties that I can pass on to my husband or my children's father if you're not married to the father of your children? Is there someone I can bring in to help? Are there things that I'm focusing on that are actually not that important that I can just let go of for this time being so that I'm not as tired? Is there certain people that I can say no to if I'm, constantly, let's say you're a mom who is super burnt out by raising her children, or maybe you have a child who has special needs, or maybe they get sick very often, and you're also someone who tries to volunteer a lot at the masjid, for example. Well, can you offload those duties of volunteering to someone else just in this season of your life so you can manage the burnout appropriately? Because nobody wins when you're exhausted. Let's say situation where you're a student and you're studying, right? You're studying and it's just, you're feeling so burnt out by all of the stress of school. I remember studying in university and then in PA school. It can be very overwhelming. You're expected to learn a lot. There's a lot of money riding on this. School is not cheap. Is there some duties you can offload to family members? Certain things that maybe chores you used to take care of at home that you're no longer doing? Or are there things that maybe you can delay? Maybe you want to fold your laundry for, you usually fold your laundry immediately, but you have a big exam coming up and you decide you're going to do it the day after the exam. These are examples of offloading duties. Really sit there and reflect. Not what can I do, but who can help me with this? And it might be that it's not someone you know. It might be hired help. Can you hire a cleaning service, right? Instead of getting on the floor and scrubbing, the tiles of the bathroom, which is going to end up taking you 2 hours, can you hire someone to do that for you? Do you have the finances to do it? If you have the finances, use it. What's next? The next thing to do in order to heal burnout is to reconnect. Now, here's the thing about burnout. It ends up feeling so overwhelming that we tend to fall apart and neglect a lot of the very healthy coping mechanisms we used to have. We tend not to do the things that are going to help us overcome the burnout. And so reconnecting with those things is really important, and it's important to do intentionally. The first thing that needs to be focused on is reconnecting with your relationship with Allah. Why do I say this? Because so often I've seen men and women who experience burnout completely let their relationship with Allah fall to the sidelines. And the thing about it is that in order to overcome burnout, you got to think of it like burnout is something, we say it's draining us. So almost think about it like you had a water bottle and you poked a hole in it and water is pouring out, right? It's draining out. Well, what